Mike, I'd love to know how I can advocate for somebody that's in a nursing home.
Yeah, it's a great question, Krista. This is actually top of mind for me. Recently, my father passed away, and to I had to actually do this for him, and it's a process that's really uncomfortable. You're having to push back on people who are delivering care for someone. You're in a universe you don't really understand very well, and a lot of families feel powerless about what to do when they're unhappy. They don't understand how a nursing home works. Most people, including myself to a great extent, don't even really understand how healthcare works in some respects on the administrative end. But I do know nursing homes. And so, in that respect, I want to talk about that because there are things you can do if you have concerns. There are ways to effectively have those concerns addressed, and then what you can do if they're not being addressed. Nursing homes are required to periodically reassess their residents. Now, when they do this, there's documents that they have to fill out and they have to send some to the government. But at the end of the day, they're going to supposedly come together and have what's called a care conference. Now, these care conferences in a good facility are going to be attended by all the important decision makers and all the important people that are directing care for a resident. And the idea is that they all come together at these care conferences. They're going to take a look at a person's health over the last quarter or whatever it happens to be. They're going to determine if they need to make adjustments to the care plan or to his therapy or her therapy or whatever it happens to be. But everybody is focused on one person for this period of time. Now, here's the thing about care conferences. You, as a family member, can ask for them because a critical key member that should be at a care conference is the involved family member. Listen, for some people in nursing homes, they don't have a family, they don't have advocates. How these things get done, I can't say. In some places. In a good facility, they treat those people just like anybody else. But if you are a family member, not only do you have a right to be there, but you can call for a care conference. Now, care conference is magical language that the staff in the facility are going to understand. A lot of families don't know they can call for these because the director of nursing should be in attendance at a care conference. A lot of people will complain to the nurses on the floor or the aides on the floor, and they think that this is enough, right? I've explained to my husband or wife's caregiver about this particular issue. Either they're soiled all the time or I'm coming in the afternoon and they're still in their morning clothes, their sleeping clothes, or whatever it happens to be. And they think, well, I'm done. I've, these people care. They care about my complaint. It's been up-channeled as it should be. And I'm here to tell you that that's not always the case. In an understaffed facility or where there's a lot of contract or agency personnel, these are people that they bring in to fill staffing shortfalls, oftentimes those complaints go nowhere. They go nowhere. Even if you complain to the charge nurse, oftentimes they will go nowhere. However, if you ask for a care conference, you will have their full attention. So, like I said, a care conference is a scheduled meeting. Now, it should be attended by the director of nursing. It should be attended by a charge nurse, a CNA. It should also be attended by anyone from therapy who's involved in a person's care, and perhaps a dietitian, and it's kind of run by the social worker. And like I said, the purpose of these care conferences is that for this period of time, out of the 50 residents in this building, they are only focused on yours, right? And since everybody is there, there should be no miscommunication or problems that aren't appreciated by one department versus another one, because therapy, nursing, and dietary are all different departments. And I oftentimes find problems that arise when there is no communication between them. In fact, I had a mediation yesterday where I had a resident that had skin breakdown. And when you have skin breakdown, you have to immediately notify the dietitian because the dietitian has to reassess the calories and protein that a person is taking in. And they also have to look at their most recent labs to be sure that there aren't problems, because there's a direct link between nutrition pressure injuries. In this case, I have a person with an open wound that's getting worse, and the dietitian is writing in her note, skin is intact. They're not talking to each other, right? And this is what happens, and I will tell you it does happen. But the point of a care conference is to prevent that from happening. So for example, if you see skin breakdown appearing on your loved one, or you have other concerns about their care, you can call for a care conference. If it's a troubled facility, they may try to placate in other ways, like say, oh, well, I'll tell the director of nursing about your complaints. I will tell you, I know it's uncomfortable. The phrase I hear so often is, I don't want to rock the boat. And I understand that, because if you could care for your loved one in your home, you would do it. You're only there because you have to be there, and you're counting and relying on these people to do something that you can't possibly do. And it's very uncomfortable, right, to push them or to debate with them or even to call them out. I understand that. So the care conference is a way that you can do this and really put the pressure on them, just simply saying, I would like to have a care conference. And if they try to deflect it and say, well, I'll up challenge and say, I think that would be great if you could do that, but I'd also like a care conference because there's other members of the team I'd like to speak with. Now, the way it should work is they should contact a family member and schedule a care conference. These kinds of things should not be like 6 months out from when you ask, right? They could do these fairly quickly. They would likely be on the day shift. You can participate by phone if it'll make it easier for them, as long as you're hearing what they're saying and you're giving your concerns directly to the heads of the departments of the caregivers, and in many instances, the caregivers themselves. You should leave a care conference with a clear plan as to what's going to happen. So for example, if your concern is skin breakdown, the care plan for your resident will be reviewed, and they will go through the interventions and determine if they require more. I will tell you candidly, I have seen several pressure injury cases in the past year where offloading pressure on a schedule is not on the care plan. And let's be clear, offloading pressure is the most important way to prevent a pressure injury, okay? When you don't see that on a care plan, or it just simply says offload pressure for convenience or something like that, that's meaningless, right? I want to see, well, how often is it going to happen and when is it going to happen? And modern care plans that are electronic now will actually assign that to someone in the nursing department. It usually say CNA after that task is set on the care plan. So that would be addressed in the care conference. And if you haven't seen your resident's care plan, this is an opportunity for you to see it, okay? If you have issues with therapy or dietary or anything, all these people should be at the care conference. And in a good facility, they will be, right? In a good facility, when they schedule their care conferences, they will reach out to the family. They will say, hey, we're having a care conference for your mom, your dad, your spouse. You should come. If you can't be there for work or because you work or something like that, you can participate by phone. And here's what we're going to discuss and go through. Now, importantly, at the end of the care conference, there is going to be a written record of what was discussed. This is usually generated by the social worker, all right, who should be at the care conference. You have an absolute right to see what that says. You have an absolute right, if you are power of attorney for someone, to get a full and complete copy of the chart within 2 working days under the federal regulations. But specifically to care conferences, you have a right to see what that says. And it's perfectly appropriate if you've been the one participating in the care conference to say, listen, can you please send me the record of what we discussed? Because I have candidly seen care conference notes in bad facilities where those notes are literally copied and pasted electronically. They say almost the exact same thing they said last time. That a person could be exactly the same in 3, 6, 9 months, whatever, is hard to believe, especially when they have problems developing. So understanding what they're writing about what was accomplished in that care conference. And if you see something in there that either wasn't discussed, right, or is not accurate, you have a right to point that out. And you can do this without too much pushback. You can say, I'd like to talk to the director of nursing because I saw something in this note that isn't accurate, or the social worker who's probably actually more available than the director of nursing. And so using this powerful tool can help you advocate for your loved one. You're not powerless. It's just, I can assure you that no one in the facility that in a troubled facility is going to reach out to you and say, hey, would you like to schedule a care conference? You will ask for it, but you should get it, and you should get it fairly quickly, and you should have answers to your questions. I would tell you this too. If you're going to engage in a care conference and you have specific issues you want to discuss, I would advise you to write them down before you go in there. Really, this is advice I use myself or give to anyone whenever I want to have important discussions with healthcare providers, either for my own loved ones or for families that I'm advising in this department. Write it down, because number one, you won't forget something. You don't want to go in there and then leave and say, oh, I wish I would have talked about this. This way you can cover all your bases, right? So you write it down, so when you go in there, you know what you want to cover. Also, you have a record of what was discussed. So if there is a conflict between what that care conference note says and what you have on your piece of paper, well, you can point that out to them and suggest they fix the record. So you're not powerless. This is a great tool to use. It involves the least amount of, I guess it's hard to push back, right? Because I understand how uncomfortable that is when you have people caring for someone that you don't have the ability to care for. And it's a tool that they understand. You're speaking their language. And all you're really doing is accelerating something they need to do under the regulations anyway. So that's a tool you can use to advocate for your loved one. I hope you found that helpful, and good luck. Thank you.